Hey guys, bringing you my World 2020 Finals preview. I'm going to keep this video as short as possible, as I know this video is going to be released quite close to the actual finals, so people want to just have a quick glance and then know what's happening. So let's get right into it. In the first slide, we're going to be talking about champion picks and bans. So first on the agenda is the champions that Damwon and Suning ban the most. Now we can see that Ornn and Lucian are both very much banned by both teams. One team does, however, have a higher percentage than the other. Now what this means is that Suning have banned Ornn in 80% of the games compared to Damwon banning in only 54% of their games. Now what this can tell us is that Damwon sometimes leave up Ornn in order to actually get the champion on their team, or they have kind of picks that they feel they can pick into it. And Suning Bin, their top laner, hasn't been someone who's really played much tanks or anything like that, so they've just been banning the Ornn most of their games. And Lucian, obviously incredibly strong champion at the moment, so not really surprised by the priority on that champion. We could see that Suning do, however, ban Lucian more than Damwon, and this could once again be the same as the Ornn one, where Damwon leave up the Lucian, forcing the other team to either ban it or they can then first pick it. So that's kind of interesting. But for the rest of the bans, we can see that Damwon ban Renekton quite a bit, and Suning don't really bother. This shows that Suning like picking the Renekton, where Damwon they don't really have a high priority on it, but they also don't want the other team to have it. We can also see Shen ban quite a bit, and Suning banning the TF also. Those are the notable ones, and also Caitlyn sprinkled in there, but that's not something I expect to see as much of. Now, the champs that get banned against these teams are, once again, both teams have their top two being the same champions, just this time switched in order. Obviously, Nidalee Camille, two of the best champions in the game right now, and both these junglers can play Nidalee to a really high level, and both these top laners can also play Camille at a high level. So, not surprising at all. Not nothing much to say there really. So moving on into the picks, we can see that Damwon have Ornn as their most picked top laner compared to Suning having Jax. Now this should immediately tell us something, and that is that Damwon are playing more of a supportive type top laner. And when I say that, I don't mean like an actual support. I mean something that's gonna help their team more compared to being a carry. So elaborating on that further, Damwon are a team that like to play around Canyon, their jungler, a lot, and they've been really good at that. And the meta is very suited towards that. So this Ornn pick makes a lot of sense. It means that their jungler can get most of the focus. And Suning have been a team that's really played a lot around Bin, their top laner, and you can see that with mainly carry picks being the Jax and Gangplank and like a bunch of other champions. The champions without a bracket next to the name have only been picked once by that player. So yeah, we can also see that Nuguri, Damwon's top laner, has also picked champions like Kennen, Set, Lulu, all champions that are not exactly carry champs, more of just weak side, playing for the team fights. Moving on to the jungle position, we could see both teams really high priority on Graves. Damwon have actually gotten it 9 times, so Canyon's really played a lot of Graves. And that's mainly because Nidalee's been banned, I would say, and obviously Kindred being second as well. But after those two picks, we can see quite a stark difference between the two players, and that is that Canyon only plays carry junglers so far. I'm not saying he can't play non-carry junglers, but Suning have also showed that they can play the Jarvan, they can play the Lee Sin, they can play the Shen, and that shows that Suning aren't as focused around jungle as Damwon are. So basically, what I'm saying is that SOFM, Suning's jungler, is far more focused on playing for his lanes than Canyon, who is focused on getting leads in the jungle and carrying from that position. So that's just two playstyle differences. I would say Damwon's playstyle is better for the current meta at the moment than Suning's, but yeah, that's more of an opinion. Moving on to the mid lane, we can see that Showmaker, Damwon's mid laner, has played most of his games on TF. Now this isn't really surprising to anyone that knows Showmaker. He's very good at the champion and it obviously works super well with a carry jungler. You can obviously get priority in lane, meaning your jungler can invade, and you can obviously use your destiny, your ult, to go help your jungler, and even side lanes if you need to. He's also played Syndra, which is kind of a similar champion. Obviously, she doesn't have the global presence, but she gets priority in lane early, and that means you can get Canyon to invade and get a jungle lead. He's also played the Galio, and the Silas is mainly a pick against TF because you can steal the TF ult, and many people regard that to be a pretty nice pick into Twisted Fate for obvious reasons. Suning have played mainly Galio, and they've played a lot more variety on their side in general, but especially in the mid lane, you can see Galio, Zoe, Syndra, Akali, all more than one game. Now, the Galio kind of functions similarly to the TF in that he has the global presence, but his lane pressure isn't as much as the TF into certain matchups. Now this gets a bit more complex, I'm not really going to go into that, but what this says is that they prefer the Galio over the TF. As we can see, TF isn't banned against them all that much, so it's not that they just get TF banned against Suning, it's just that they don't like it as much as the Galio. So yeah, that's quite interesting. They also have picks like the Zoe and the Syndra, which are also early lane priority roaming type champions. So both mid laners are kind of roaming a lot and trying to help the map and all that. That's kind of just what mid lane's been at this Worlds. This Worlds has really not been a Worlds for mid laners to shine in. It's been far more about top lane or jungle. So nothing all that much to say about mid lane. I think Showmaker is the better player compared to Angel, but it's not gonna be a big deal because mid lane's obviously not that impactful. Now, moving on. AD carry, there's not all that much to say really, because the AD carries have kind of just obviously picked the same champions as throughout the tournament. We do, however, see that Suning have had a much higher priority on Ezreal compared to Damwon, who haven't picked the champion once. But otherwise, it's kind of similar champions. Damwon do have a bit more priority on the Ashe compared to the Ezreal. So, yeah. One thing to note with the AD carries is that Suning do sometimes play around the bot lane a bit more than Damwon would, and that's because SOFM can pick the Lee and the Jarvan and the Shen and help his side lanes, but Suning have more often just played around Bin in the top lane. So it's Suning's more of playing around top and having a weak side bot, and their mid lane are also playing around top. So quite a top-centric team from Suning, but Damwon are quite similar. They also have kind of a weak side bot lane and then have their mid and top helping out their jungler. So that's where we can draw similarities between the two teams. In the support pool, not all that much to say again. Just engage supports for the most part. One thing to note is that Suning have played a lot more Bard than Damwon have, and that's because Sword Art really does excel at Bard, so that's cool for me. If Suning win Worlds, hopefully we can get a Bard World skin, but we'll have to see if that happens. And obviously both teams very high priority on the Leona pick. So yeah, something also to note is that Suning haven't really played the Pantheon, but not all that much to say about support. Going on to the team's play styles a bit more, and we can see that if you just glance at the stats, that Damwon have been way more dominant in their winning games, or most of the games. We can see they've gone on first tower 85% of games compared to Sunni's 53, and all their stats are just better. It's as simple as that, really. Their goal difference per minute's much higher. Their goal differential at 15 is much higher, and their dragons are surprisingly quite similar. Now, why that's surprising is that, like I said earlier, is that Suning play around Bin quite a lot, and they don't really play for the bot lane. So obviously they have the ability to play around Huanfeng, but they don't really. So it's quite interesting that they still managed to get so many Drakes. And also what's quite interesting is that Damwon have a much higher Herald percentage than Suning. You can see they get 84% of their games they get Herald compared to Suning with 46. And more often than not, Damwon will get both Heralds. And we can see that by the 1.69 stat there. So what that says to us is that Damwon put a much higher priority on Herald than Suning, where Suning will kind of ignore the objective. But this screen should really give us a perspective that Damwon are the better team coming into this game, and Suning have had much harder games compared to Damwon. Now, you could argue that Suning have had a more difficult run to finals, meaning they've played against more difficult teams, or better teams rather, compared to Damwon. But Damwon, you can't take it away from Damwon. They've looked to be the best in the world. They've looked so dominant in all their games, and they have very little weak points. And by that I mean that all their players on their team just look to be super solid. Even their worst player in quotation marks, Ghost, who everyone thought would be a weaker AD carry, has looked to be one of the better AD carries at the tournament. He's looked really impressive. So very difficult to see the weaknesses that Damwon have. Now on Suning's side, they also have pretty solid players all around, but it's not to the quality of Damwon's. They have shown a lot more weakness, and there are some clear weak points that can be exploited on the side of Suning. So my summary of the game would be that I'm expecting a 3-0 for Damwon. I think it's going to be a very dominant victory, and just the fact that they play around Canyon so well is going to be enough to just win the games really quick and easy. And I think Suning are going to have a hard time dealing with that. So yes, I think Suning do perhaps have an advantage in the bot lane. They could maybe exploit Damwon's bot lane if Sword Art and Huanfeng were really playing well on the day. But even then, that's not really what the meta is based around. You don't really, it's not that big of a deal to dominate bot, especially if Damwon are more concerned about their jungler. So I think it's not looking good for Suning. I am I like both of these teams quite a lot. I've been a Damwon supporter since before the tournament started, so I wouldn't mind Damwon winning. But if Suning win, I also wouldn't mind. They're probably my favorite LPL team at the moment, and they're really cool underdog story. But yeah, once again, Damwon should take this game, but I think it will be a 3-0 as well. So yeah, thank you for watching. Hopefully this gives you some insight into the final, and I hope you guys enjoy the final. Hopefully it's not a stomp. Hopefully it's a bit closer. So yeah, I'll see you guys.